It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Welcome into the Sports Blitz on a Wednesday. Mark Freeman, Maddie Lassiter inside the Cogswell Motors studio. Got a busy day planned. Lots of cool stuff going on. We'll look at some local sports. We'll talk Hogs. Look at the NFL. I'll give you my power rankings again today. And also, I mentioned high school. We've got some good stuff going on with the Hogs as well. So we'll talk about quite a few different things. That we'll even hit baseball today. You never would have thought you'd heard me say that. We'll talk a little baseball. It's playoff time. Had a wild card game last night. Got another one tonight. So I know you baseball fans are looking forward to the playoffs in baseball. We've asked today the CrossFit Russellville poll question of the day. Who is your favorite current Razorback football player? I was thinking about that, and it's, watching the game on Saturday, I saw several guys that I was just like, man, I really enjoy watching this guy play. Obviously, Alex Collins had 115 yards or some similar to that, and he's just fun to watch. Already got 100 carries through 5 games. People are already asking if they're running him into the ground. Did you watch Monty Ball at Wisconsin? He got the ball about 4 million times, give or take. He was the all-time leading touchdown leader in college football history. He got run into the ground. I don't think Alex is quite there yet, but he is very, very good, and he's probably going to be the answer to the question for me. But there are other people who, you watch Jonathan Williams on Saturday and you watch the play that he made and he did it more than once, but especially one comes to mind is the little swing pass that Brandon Allen throws it out to him, and he makes one guy miss to get the first down, and you're thinking, okay, good. And then he busts through another tackle, and then some guy tries to lower his shoulder into him, and he spins off and ends up scoring a touchdown, and it's just like he will not be denied. And it was really fun to watch him do that, and I thought, as a sophomore, he's got this year, 2 more years. It's going to be extremely fun to watch him over the years grow into a role with the University of Arkansas where he and Alex Collins are going to be the future of Arkansas Razorback football. The future is bright. You got Brandon Allen, who's a sophomore. You've got both of those guys who I just mentioned, freshman and sophomore, and Collins and Jonathan Williams. Hunter Henry, everything. He'll be an All-American. I've seen several different people talk about how they believe he'll be a Mackey Award-winning tight end in the near future, and that's the award given to the best tight end in the country. Remember, DJ Williams won it several years ago now for Arkansas, but Hunter Henry, a freshman. I mean, you've got, on the defensive side of the ball, you've got Otha Peters, a sophomore. You've got A.J. Turner, who's going to be a redshirt sophomore. Darius Philon, who Alabama didn't want. They said, you come pay your own way. Just come walk on. And he had 2 sacks. And Alabama can do that because they'll go get 3 5-stars at your position. And it's sorry, we don't really have room. But, yeah, I like Philon. I like Otha Peters, A.J. Turner, some of those guys. I really thought, and I know he's a junior JUCO guy, but Carroll Washington, I thought he was going to be really good. Keep an eye on Ray Buchanan Jr. Think he'll be really good. But who's your favorite Razorback right now? Maybe you're looking down the road in the future and you think a guy like Brandon Allen or Jonathan Williams will be the guy. Maybe you think as a freshman already that Alex Collins is your guy. I remember watching Matt Jones as a freshman, and I thought, this guy is going to be the man. And it wasn't too long. I guess it was during his sophomore year where I just kind of made that plunge, and I was like, he's the man. He's my favorite. And obviously he was lightning in a bottle as a freshman and throughout his career, but he just captivated me. I'm sure he did you too. Looking down the line though, I remember Peyton Hillis was one too. I remember his very first game as a Razorback. He got a touchdown on the goal line, and it was one of those things where they handed it to him on first down, he didn't score. They handed it to him on second down, he didn't score. They handed it to him on, I think it was the third down that he scored. But it was really fun to watch him, and I thought, man, this guy could be the man. And then this guy named, what's his name? Darren McFadden, he turned out to be pretty good because he's got to play more in the second half of the season. I guess it was following the Vanderbilt game when he really started getting the carries that he needed, and he won over a lot of fans. He won me over. And then the next generation of folks came in, and there was a guy by the name of Joe Adams, who I remember watching as a freshman thinking, this guy's going to be really good. And I believe it was his sophomore year when I finally just said, all right, this is the man. He's my favorite hog, because you'll remember the South Carolina game. I've got a picture of it where he's diving into the end zone on – it was a pass play. He got the ball coming across the middle, and he's running right toward the ESPN camera, and he dives into the end zone. And there's this shot of the camera right in front of him, and it's a really cool shot. My wife bought it for me for Christmas, framed it up real cool for me, made a frame. It was nice. Joe Adams was my guy. And then their senior year, Joe Adams had fumbled so many different times, and he just made me mad. And I sort of jumped off the Joe Adams bandwagon a little early, mind you, because the Tennessee play and the Kansas State punt return, he was just incredible. But I jumped onto the Jarius Wright bandwagon during the Texas A&M game when he had like 300 yards receiving. It was just unbelievable what he did. So we asked today's CrossFit poll question, who's your favorite Razorback and why? You've got a guy that stands out in your mind that you say, I really look forward to watching this guy. I think he is my favorite. He's the most exciting. I'm sure there are some defensive guys or some linemen that might be more interested in Dan Skipper, 6'10" guard, or Denver Kirkland or somebody like that. But for me, Alex Collins is the guy. I could see a guy like Hunter Henry becoming an All-American, all-everything. I mean, he's a basketball player, and apparently that's now the thing. If you're a basketball playing tight end, you're the man. Ask Jimmy Graham or Tony Gonzalez or Antonio Gates. They're guys who Julius Thomas, is another one from Denver. The basketball playing tight end is in right now. And Hunter Henry is that guy. He was an All-American. I say All-American. He was an All-American football player. He was a very, very good basketball player. Got to see him firsthand as Clarksville played Pulaski Academy in the 4A state championship game. I guess it was 2 years ago now. Who's your favorite hog today? Let us know. You can call us at 968-NEWS. That's 968-6397. Or you can get us on Facebook, facebook.com/sportsblitz. We would love to hear from you today. Let's start real quickly, though, with our Peters Family Living local sports look. We've just got a couple minutes left in this opening segment, but we want to run through some high school football. This week, if you missed this on Monday, we ran through the final scores from Friday night, and we will preview this Friday night's games. The Russellville Cyclones fell 38-24. I think I said 35 on Monday. I apologize for that. 38-24 to Conway. They've got Fort Smith Northside this week. They'll be hosting it's homecoming for the Cyclones. It's also homecoming for the Clarksville Panthers. They're taking on Huntsville. So they've got kids dressing all crazy. I think today's Wear Pink Wednesday. So I think it's that way at both schools, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe Russellville did it the other day. But at some point throughout the week, both schools are going to be wearing pink. And I guess it's October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, is it not, Maddie? I believe it is. So most of these players, even in the NFL, will be wearing their pink coming up for the next month. So that'll be cool. But today's Wear Pink Wednesday at Clarksville. I know that. I got a picture from one of my youth kids. Scarred me for life with this kid wearing pink shorty shorts. But anyway, that's going to be taking place this week at Russellville and at Clarksville. Pottsville beat Subiaco 49-14. They traveled to Dardanelle for one of the most eagerly anticipated games of the year early on. That's going to be a nice one. I mentioned Clarksville, Huntsville, Lamar. It was our featured game of the week last week. They came back to win 38-34 over Lavaca. They're traveling to Mansfield this week. Atkins fell 21-20, heartbreaking fashion to Cedarville in overtime. They're traveling to Lavaca. Dover fell to Dardanelle. They're traveling to Mena. Danville lost to Charleston. They're hosting Cedarville. Hector got a 43-7 win over Western Yale County. They're taking on Magazine. And Two Rivers beat Horatio 25-12. They're hosting Fountain Lake. We mentioned Arkansas Tech fell 44-34 to Nicholls State. They're now 2-2 on the season, and they're going to travel to UAM for a 3 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. We got Jason on the line. Jason, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? I know I said I couldn't call in today, but just talking about favorite Razorback, so I had to call in and tell you who mine is, I guess.
Who you got?
Man, I'm going to say Alex Collins. I think with the hype that he had coming out of high school, and, all the expectations that he had, coming on to the university, I think with what he has done, he's led us in rushing. He's had over 100 yards rushing in 5 games. I think that's the most in, tied for Dan McFadden, I think, for the most in Arkansas history as a freshman. But I think it's Alex Collins for me. He's just he's got that wow factor. It's every time he touches the ball, there's a chance of him taking it the distance.
You know what's funny about that, and I totally agree with you. He was my guy too. He hasn't taken one of those yet. It feels like the Darren McFadden factor, where it feels like he's just one step away from breaking one, and he has not broken one yet. I'm looking for him to do that, Jason.
Oh, me too. I think his longest one is 46 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that was a touchdown or not, but I think that was his longest run. But, man, I don't know. I like him. I think he's going to be great in time.
Oh, I definitely do too. He's exciting, and the fact that he was able to live up to the hype is the crazy part. You remember the story about him coming out whenever he was going to sign his letter of intent that day, and his mom took it. She wanted him to go to Miami, and she ran off, and he had to get his dad to sign with him, and he goes to the University of Arkansas. Turned out to be a pretty good decision for him, huh, Jason?
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
Well, I know Hunter Henry's another guy we'd like to see come along. I'm looking forward to watching Brandon Allen the next couple of years. I feel like he's going to be a very, very good asset for the Razorbacks. And on the defensive side, I'm sure there are going to be some guys. I know defense isn't as sexy. They don't as often make the big fun play like an Alex Collins will do. But I'm sure there are some guys. The future is bright for the Razorbacks, Jason.
Yes, it is. And defense, I'm probably going to say my favorite on defense right now is probably Trey Flowers, just because, man, he can just rush the pass. He's a pretty good run defender, and then he was so athletic when he dropped back on that pass play and dove and intercept that pass.
That was ridiculous.
I like Trey Flowers a lot.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Trey Flowers is definitely my favorite defensive player. Chris Smith is really good, and he'll get more of the attention, but that's caused Trey Flowers to flourish. So, looking forward to seeing him play the rest of the season as well. Jason, you got anything else you want to add? I don't want to keep you too long from work, bud.
No, man, that's it. You were just talking about that, so I thought, man, I got to call in and say my favorite Razorback.
All right, man. Thank you for calling, Jason.
All right, talk to you later.
Take it easy. Bye. That's Jason Kilburn. He likes to call in and give us his thoughts. He does a good job with formulating logical thoughts, unlike me sometimes. That's our Peters Family Living Local Sports Look. In today's poll question, our CrossFit Russellville poll question. Let us know who your favorite Razorback is right now. Maybe we can get a little sentimental and look back at the good old days and talk about your favorite Razorback of all time, too, if you feel like it. But give us a call, 968 News. Stay with us.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KARK4 today.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz. We're going to try our best to get you some Brett Bielema sound from yesterday's press conference. And he wrapped up the Texas A&M game. He previewed a little bit the Florida game. He's talking right now on the SEC teleconference about the Florida matchup. And he talked about, and I didn't even really think about this much, about the Florida players, the Arkansas players who are from Florida going back home. Alex Collins is from Florida, so playing in his home state will be interesting to see how he plays. Now, Florida, and their defense is just stupid good. So we'll preview that game here in just a little bit. But before we get there, let's look real quickly at the wire. This is not something we always get to do because there's not always a whole lot of big headlines to hit. But the last few days there have been some pretty big ones. In baseball, for instance, last night the Pirates got a 6-2 win over the Reds in the NL wildcard game. They get to show them what they've won. They get to play the St. Louis Cardinals in the divisional round of the playoffs. And tonight you've got Cleveland and Tampa Bay. The winner will get the Boston Red Sox in that AL matchup. And then the other ones, Detroit, Oakland, and the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves. Those four series eventually will lead us to a World Series. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you now, as the big baseball fan that I am, who's going to win the World Series, okay? Now let me look and think about this for about 2 seconds. I'll go with the Boston Red Sox to win the World Series. Okay, Boston Red Sox will beat the Dodgers. That's what's going to happen. Just telling you now. For those of you that watch very often, you know I don't care much for baseball. I do have, and I've said this more than I care to admit, a lot more respect for teams like the Cardinals than I used to. I used to give my friends so much crap because they loved the Cardinals. And I was just like, you guys are all blind followers. And then I realized, wait, I root for the Razorbacks when they suck. I root for the Dallas Cowboys, and they always suck. And I'm giving them trouble for rooting for the Cardinals because back then they weren't that good. They won that World Series, I guess it was 2006. And then they won another one again the year before last. So they've been very good. They've just always done it the right way. They go through the farm system. They build up. They don't go out and buy players like the Yankees and, to an extent, the Red Sox. Now, that's not how this Red Sox team is constructed, but last year and before that, they had done a whole lot of, okay, well, let's just go get the highest priced guy because nobody else outside of New York can afford that guy, and then we'll build our team that way. The Cardinals have always gone about it the right way. Now, the Dodgers are in that mold now, the Boston, New York mold. They've got all the money in the world. They just go spend it. They took on the entire Red Sox salary from last year in that big trade that sent, I guess it was Carl Crawford and I'm forgetting a very, very good player, first baseman for the Red Sox that now plays for the Dodgers. Told you I'm a big baseball fan. And then they've gone on and done pretty good, done pretty well there in Dodger land. Yasiel Puig, he's fun to watch. We'll see how that the series with Atlanta goes. I've heard a bunch of people talking about Atlanta and how they gripe about everything, it seems like. Brian McCann, their catcher, cutting folks off at the pass because they've stared at a home run too long. He's standing on the third baseline just to jaw at somebody. And I wondered, people were talking on Twitter about what they would do the first time Yasiel Puig hit a home run and stared it down for too long. In the playoffs, what do? You come back and beat him in the ear? Probably. Baseball's unwritten rules. You don't mess with those. But anyway, the playoffs are upon us, and it's time to get a little serious about baseball. You've got the Pirates, Cards, Tampa Bay, Cleveland winner gets Boston, Detroit, Oakland, and the Dodgers and the Braves. They're in the Major League Baseball playoffs. We'll break those down in a little greater detail. Again, I said tonight, Tampa Bay and Cleveland. So things are about to get rolling there in the baseball playoffs. I watched the Book of Manning last night, changing gears here. If you've never seen that, if you haven't seen that yet, you've got to find it. It's SEC storied, the Book of Manning. I'm sure that it's on YouTube. If it's not, you can find it on demand, or they'll replay it on ESPN or something like that, one of those channels. But wow. And I tweeted last night, no, it's just really dusty in here. Because as I'm watching, it's just like one of those, oh my gosh. Watching the things that happened to Archie Manning in his life growing up, watching the things that happened to Cooper Manning, the oldest Manning brother, and how I had no idea that he was on his way to Ole Miss as a wide receiver and was just an incredible athlete, and had to watch his brothers become Super Bowl MVPs, and he didn't get his chance because of an early sickness in college. So, man, it's well worth a watch to find, just to watch the family and learn a little bit more about them. I remember when Eli Manning was in college. Obviously, I was a younger guy. I was in high school then. I was a little younger. I remember watching him in college, but I was junior high, elementary school when Peyton was in college. But when Eli was in college and Archie would sit up there with his headphones on, and I hated Ole Miss, man. I hated Eli Manning. I wanted it. And remember, Arkansas beat them in 7 overtimes. I used to think, I wish Archie would just fall off the stands. I didn't know why, but I didn't like him. Watching last night gave me a newfound respect for the man and for the family. And I really encourage you to go watch that Book of Manning. It's really, really good. I also saw yesterday that Michael Jordan's still running his mouth, man. He's 50 years old, the best basketball player of all time, my favorite player growing up. And I've told you more than once, if you've listened, that I have no respect for the man, Michael Jordan. Watching his life off the court, obviously when I was young, I didn't know anything about what was going on off the court. There were rumors of him having a gambling issue. He had millions and millions of dollars, and he liked to gamble. So, okay, and then rumors of infidelity in the home. That's not my business, so I kind of shrugged it off. Punching players in the face. I heard he punched Steve Kerr in the face during a practice. You know, things happen during practice, and all this stuff sort of came to a head at his Hall of Fame speech. If you remember Michael Jordan talking about, you know, how all these people had slighted him, and he didn't give anybody credit for anything. He was just nobody helped him along the way. It was just like he was there by himself. He didn't have one of the 50 best players of all time in Scottie Pippen on his team. He didn't have guys like Dennis Rodman who are willing to give up everything to come just rebound and do nothing else. He didn't have guys like Steve Kerr who would hit big shots, or John Paxson who would hit big shots in the finals. It was like he did it all himself. And it just absolutely, it was the straw that broke the camel's back for me as far as the man goes. And I say all that to say he's still running his mouth at 50 years old. He was talking yesterday, I think it was for a promo for NBA 2K14. LeBron's on the cover. He's thrown his powder in the air, and it's a pretty cool cover. But they're asking him about one-on-one matchups with NBA greats in their prime, and he said, "You're in your prime, they're in their prime. Who would you like to play?" And he goes through a list. He mentioned Magic, Elgin Baylor, all kinds of different guys. Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James in their prime, and he said he could beat them all. And I don't mind him saying he could beat LeBron James. If you've ever seen my article, you can go to rivervalleyleader.com. I wrote a little commentary about that because I just had like a daydream one day where I was thinking about what would happen if Michael Jordan and LeBron James played one-on-one. I thought, man, that'd be a really, really cool. If they're both at their absolute best, what would happen? I feel like either one of them at their absolute best, they take away what you want to do. So it would have to be a little give and take from each person. They couldn't be at their absolute best because at their absolute best, Jordan locks you down, LeBron locks you down. Who scores? It's just one of those things. So I've thought about it, and you'll have to see the way that it ends. If you go to rivervalleyleader.com, you can go through my blog. It's all in the game. You can just type in all in the game in the search box, and you can go through there and see all my blog posts. There's one about Michael Jordan versus LeBron James in one-on-one basketball. Needless to say, though, I thought Michael Jordan would win. You'll see how it happens if you read it, but just in my imagination, in my mind's eye, I don't have a problem with him saying that he would win. I do have a problem with him saying, though, that all the players that he would pick to play against, he would beat, except for Kobe Bryant. And I don't think he meant it the way a lot of people are taking it today when they're saying, oh, he thinks he couldn't beat Kobe Bryant. That means Kobe's better than LeBron. That means Kobe is up there with Michael Jordan. I really think the way that he meant that, it was sort of a tongue-in-cheek thing, because the next thing he said was, yeah, Kobe would be different because he stole all my moves. I wish we had the YouTube video. There's a guy who put a YouTube video together. They showed it on SportsCenter last night in its entirety. They don't do that ever, but they showed this video in its entirety of Kobe Bryant doing exactly what Michael, like literally in games, doing the exact same thing that Michael Jordan did, pulling to a place on the elbow and hitting a fadeaway, or running to the short corner and fadeaway, or dribbling between his legs up at the top, crossing over to this side. And you can see a side-by-side where Jordan does something, then Kobe does the exact same thing. And Jordan was basically acknowledging the fact that Kobe did steal all his moves. I've said that for years, Brad Caldwell. I've told you for years that Kobe was a knockoff of Michael Jordan. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that because he's very, very good, but he's not his own guy, and that's why I respect LeBron. There's never been another LeBron. You can argue, guys, that back in the day, I'm a little bit of a basketball historian, but I didn't get to watch Oscar Robertson play. Heard a lot of things about how he was a LeBron James type before him. He got the rebounds, he got the assists, he scored the points, and he was just an all-everything. He averaged a triple-double for a season. Now, granted, there were like 47 white guys and one black guy in the NBA at that time, so he was going to dominate because he was just better than everybody else. I was being a little facetious there with that, but at the same time, he was great. There's never been quite somebody like LeBron James, though, a guy that can score 30 points a game. He could easily score 30 points a night. He scores 26, 27 with the Heat because Dwayne Wade's a 20-point scorer, Chris Bosh, 18-point scorer, and they've got guys who can do that. He'll get 7.5 to 8 rebounds a game. He'll get 6.5 to 7, maybe even 8 assists a game. There's nobody like that. So I felt like that Michael sort of took a slight to LeBron James in that, and here I am, the LeBron apologist of the crew, taking up for my guy. But I just felt like that Kobe, it was a little more tongue-in-cheek than a lot of people are saying today. Kobe Bryant, as good as he is, stole a lot of what he does from Michael Jordan, and I have a little bit more respect for a guy like LeBron who does it his own way. Even gave up the number 23. You remember that a couple of years ago? It was, I guess it was 2008 in the Olympics when he was just like, you know what? I'm not going to wear 23 anymore. Nobody deserves to wear 23. I'm going to wear number 9. It was number 6, wasn't it? Golly, basketball season's gone too far away. Number 6 in the Olympics, and I'm just going to continue to wear number 6, and nobody else should wear 23 anymore. And he's kind of gone his own way. It's sort of him making a separation from when he was in high school and he wanted to be Jordan. He wears 23 and he throws down the dunks like Jordan did, and just a freak of nature. But he's evolved, and we look at his preseason talk stuff that he's done. He wants to be the greatest of all time, says he's still a long ways away, but he sees the light. I love that from LeBron James. It's going to be fun to watch the NBA season this year. Dwayne Wade says he's healthy, a little lighter. 6 weeks of working out with the famed trainer that worked out with Michael Jordan and many others. Gets him back in shape and where he needs to be to really play well this year for the Heat. Lots of acquisitions for the Heat. Michael Beasley. You got Greg Oden. You lost Mike Miller, but you've done some things to sort of shore up the inside game there in Miami, but other teams have loaded up as well, so the NBA is going to be a whole lot of fun this year. Final thing, though, in the wire, Lane Kiffin. We talked about it on Monday. He was fired by USC. Who's going to be the guy? Heard a lot of talk about Jack Del Rio, the defensive coach for the Denver Broncos right now. I wonder if that's going to affect Peyton Manning and those guys. Got a question for you about Peyton Manning. and the NFL MVP. It's obvious that Peyton Manning, if you were to pick an MVP after 4 games the first quarter of the NFL season to be Peyton Manning, who's number 2? We'll ask that question right after the break.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
Welcome back inside the Cogswell Motors studios, home of RiverValleyLeader.com. We're your local home for news, weather, sports, anything you want to know going on in the River Valley. We're going to talk Hogs here in just a moment. I've got to give you my NFL power rankings, and while I do it, I wanted to talk about what we just teased before the break. If the NFL were to name a first quarter MVP, it'd be without question Peyton Manning. He's just been incredible. 16 touchdowns, no picks, just putting up video game numbers so far. So who's number 2? You look at our power rankings, and it's no surprise that the Denver Broncos are number 1 with Peyton Manning going 16-0 early on. Who's number 2? I feel like the team that's number 3 in my power rankings, they're there for a reason, and his name is Drew Brees. The New Orleans Saints, I've got Seattle number 2, New Orleans number 3, New England number 4, and the Kansas City Chiefs number 5. Now, those are the 5 undefeated teams left in the NFL. So you can have them at any place you want, and you may think that there's another team. Maybe it's the Lions who've come back, or the Bears who've been pretty good up until last week. Maybe you've got one of those teams that's better than the Chiefs or one of these other ones, but it's up for debate. Those 5 of the undefeated teams left. But looking at number 3 and the New Orleans Saints, I feel like Drew Brees has been incredible early on in this season. Knowing that he was going to bounce back, it's not as big a surprise to me. Knowing that the New Orleans Saints were going to be really good, getting Sean Payton back from his exile, getting the offensive mind back with Drew Brees, who had a pretty good year last year. He slung it around quite a bit, but the Saints were 7-9 last year. They're 4-0 already. and they look to be back in the thick of things, but they're definitely in the thick of things in the or in their division and in the conference. But for a Super Bowl with a team that is allowing only 192 yards passing a game, 5th in the league under Rob Ryan, and throwing for 338 yards a game, 2nd in the league only to Peyton Manning and the Broncos. The New Orleans Saints have just been incredible so far this year. Drew Brees, 111 of 166 for 1,434 yards and 10 touchdowns. To put it in perspective, Peyton Manning 6 touchdowns better through 4 games, which is incredible. And there's nothing to be taken away from Drew Brees saying that, because he's been awesome too. 67% completion percentage to a bevy of wide receivers, and really the big one's Jimmy Graham. The way he's been able to play at tight end, he's more of a wide receiver than most wide receivers are. He's got 458 yards and 6 touchdowns already through 4 games. He's been incredible. Drew Brees has been a breath of fresh air, because for a guy that they said was too short and would never make it in the league, I found it funny when they were talking on SportsCenter last night about him. He's doing this thing now where it's like, I don't know if he's got a helmet that's too big on, but he looks like that little kid in Pop Warner, where the helmet comes flying down and he can't see, or it spins around and you're looking out the ear hole. When he throws the ball now, he throws it and he's looking really high. And it's just like, where's he looking? It's like he's trying to look down. And you'll have to look at the highlights of Drew Brees so far this year. But you look at a shot from the back whenever the camera's behind the play and Drew Brees is standing behind the line, and you think there's no way he can see where he's throwing. But he finds those alleys between the linemen. He puts the ball in incredible position, and to me, he's number 2 right now. Talk with Brandon Hartung here, one of my friends on Twitter, and he said it's either Drew Brees or Tom Brady. To me, I agree that Tom Brady's doing really well right now, but he's 4-0 despite his team. And that's why he's in this conversation at all, because as good as he's been, his numbers aren't that great, but he's had to throw to Kenbrell Tompkins, no offense to him, Julian Edelman, no offense to him, no Danny Amendola, Wes Welker's in Denver, Rob Gronkowski hasn't played yet, Aaron Hernandez is in jail. They have a running game, but it's not, just this dominant running game. So what Tom Brady has done has been sort of in spite of his team. So he definitely deserves some commendations there. But with what Drew Brees has done statistically, it's pretty incredible so far. He's only 50 or 36 yards behind Peyton Manning as far as passing yards all overall through 4 games, and just knowing what Peyton Manning's done, that's pretty incredible. Leading the league in rushing, 468 yards through 4 games, LaShawn McCoy. He's 47 yards ahead of Adrian Peterson, who seems to break a long one every single game, and he's struggled yards per carry if you take out that one big one per game, because Minnesota can't throw the ball and the quarterback can't keep anybody off, with the offensive line struggles, knowing that they can't throw, the defense just kind of pins their ears back at Adrian Peterson, keeps him hemmed in. What he's done is very impressive. Julio Jones leads the league with 481 yards receiving, but looking at that number 2 guy, Jimmy Graham, a tight end, number 2 in the league in receiving right now, that's just incredible. Knowing that you got Torrey Smith, number 3, Victor Cruz, number 4, and Antonio Brown, number 5. These are top end wide receivers, and Jimmy Graham's right there at number 2. Those are some guys that deserve mention. But again, back to my power rankings. Denver number 1. It's just not even a question. They haven't even been anywhere close to tested in the first 4 games of the year. Now they've got a tough stretch coming up, but they're playing Dallas on Sunday. I'm going to go ahead and make a bold prediction, Maddie, right now. Dallas Cowboys are going to beat the Denver Broncos Sunday. Do you know why they're going to do that? Do I think that that's something that's logical to say? No. But that's the Dallas Cowboys. That's what they do. They go out and lose to Kansas City by 1 point. They go out and lose a 21-10 lead to San Diego on the road. Let them score 20 points in a row. Not let them. They didn't. San Diego had a little something to do with that. Give up 400 yards passing to Phillip Rivers, and then all signs point to Peyton Manning coming in there, breaking every record in the history of the world, scoring 1,000 points, and Dallas losing, going on with the tail between their legs, and then Dallas will find a way to win the game. Just telling you now. Don't know how, don't know why. And the next week, Dallas will lay an egg and just look terrible because over the past, 17 years, they're exactly 500. That's what they are. They'll find a way somehow to ruin this for Peyton Manning and the Broncos this week. And I'll tell you this, as a guy who likes the Dallas Cowboys, and I'd love for them to win every game, and the Denver Broncos, I'd love for those two to meet in the Super Bowl every year that Peyton Manning's there. I'll be a Peyton Manning fan wherever he goes, and obviously a Cowboys fan. I want Dallas to beat Denver on Sunday. Now, I'd want Dallas to beat anybody, but as much as a Denver fan as I am, and I know that they've got a much better chance to win the Super Bowl than Dallas, I still want Dallas to beat them. Because I don't want this conversation, which I know it's already in the back of some people's minds, where, well, Peyton, man, are they ever going to lose? Is this going to be that team? Peyton Manning, as good as he's been in the regular season, though, he's one of those guys who's got to prove it in the playoffs. I've got a friend of mine, Blue Mac Zealer, who is talking about Tom Brady. Now, he's a Patriots apologist, talking about how Brady does it in the playoffs. He has lost the last 2 Super Bowls he's been in, and Peyton Manning has been one and done in the playoffs, which he has. He has been a different guy in the playoffs. But, I feel like this year, if Denver goes undefeated for a long time, it'll do more harm than good, because it'll be the talk. That'll be the talk. And, can they do this? Can they go undefeated? It'll be an undue distraction, when I feel like if they just go ahead and get that loss out of the way this Saturday or this Sunday to the Dallas Cowboys, they can focus. I'm just saying, man, when we come in here Monday and the Dallas Cowboys have somehow inexplicably beaten the Denver Broncos, you'll understand exactly what I meant. And when they come in here and they've beaten the Dallas Cowboys 70-14, you can call me an idiot. But anyway, let's take our final break real quickly. We're going to try to get Brett Bielema sound for you before we preview the Arkansas Razorbacks and the Florida Gators.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
Brett Bielema is meeting with the media At the moment, the SEC teleconference, if it may have just ended, but we'll have some sound from him here in just a moment, previewing the Florida Gators. I thought it was funny that Florida, Damian Jacobs, a defensive lineman from Florida, claims that he's a defensive tackle. He says that Arkansas's offensive line's a little dirty. I'm not going to lie to you. I sort of like that he thinks that, because you know what's going to be in his mind during the game. He says they're a little chippy. They're real physical. I think they're a little chippy. They're a little dirty, so we're going to have to be ready for it all this week. You know what that means to me? That he's going to have in the back of his mind the whole game, I hope I don't get hit. I hope somebody doesn't do something dirty to me. I'm not saying that I'm advocating somebody playing dirty and doing something illegal, but you know this line needs to get a little nasty. They need to get that bully on the block mentality where they'll just they'll hit you, man. I don't think Arkansas only had one penalty last Saturday. One penalty. That's incredible. That a team that seemed like every single play last year or every single series started out at 1st and 15 after a false start, that they would have come this far in 5 games to where they would only have one penalty in the entire Texas A&M game. You'd think if they were dirty, they'd be getting some unsportsmanlike penalties every once in a while. They did get one a couple weeks ago, Jarrett Lake, on a Bush League call, in my opinion. He touches a quarterback out of bounds, is the Rutgers game, makes him take one step sideways, doesn't even really affect him in any way, 15-yard unsportsmanlike. But if the offensive line were that dirty, wouldn't you think that there would be some repercussions coming down from the SEC office or from the officials? I think that it's more talk than anything. And I did find it interesting that they talked about Travis Swanson being the guy that was sort of dirty. He's a Remington Award, best center in the country watch list guy. So I think that's something to pay attention to this week. I did think it was awesome what Sam Pittman said. He said, I heard about that, and I'm paraphrasing him here, but this is very close to what he said. I don't have it written down in front of me. But it said the player who said that is a very good player. I'm sure he can back it up. Oh, I love it. Doesn't that just sound like that bulldog mentality of an offensive line coach that you want? Or he'd say, he's really good. I think he should be able to back that up, because we're going to come after him now, because he's going to talk all that trash, which, it seems like he was just sort of trying to tell the truth in his opinion as he saw it. But that Arkansas's offensive line is going to be extra motivated this week. Not only you got Alex Collins, a Florida product, playing running back, and he's going to be motivated. You've got the offensive line who's going to be motivated, the defense who wants to step up and say, look, that 44 points we gave up last week to Johnny Manziel is not who we are. And although they did only give up 7 yards a play, which is a yard, it's 1.8 yards less than Alabama gave up to Texas A&M, tied for the fewest that Texas A&M's gained per play in a game this season. Arkansas's defense can play better, and I feel like this week they're going to try to do that. They've got the motivation that they need now on the offensive line to play a little bit above themselves in the swamp, and they're going to have to beat Florida in the swamp. First time that Arkansas's never beaten Florida in the swamp. To be able to beat them, they're going to have to play outside their minds, and maybe Damian Jacobs just gave them a little bit to do that. Let's listen to a little bit from Brett Bielema real quickly as he previews the Florida game. Don't know how much we're going to give you, but we've got a little bit previewing the game. Is my mic on?
With him, he should be no problem to play by Saturday. So with that, the big week this week, obviously second game in the SEC to play Florida at their home turf, and obviously I've recruited a lot of state in Florida, so it's a big weekend for us in our recruiting wars and all that goes on there. And I think our kids are very, very excited to go to the swamp, and obviously we haven't beat them in SEC play, so an opportunity to do something that's never been done here is exciting for our guys. And I think they got some mojo out of last week. Obviously, we didn't get a win, but I think the guys felt they competed and played with a very, very good football team. So excited about that opportunity.
I know you're not big on moral victories like you just said, but compare kind of the mindset to this week compared to coming off the Rutgers.
I was pretty strong with our guys on Sunday. The Sunday after Rutgers, I thought we needed to get them back and understand some things that happened, but made sure they understood why we lost and kind of brought it back to them on Tuesday. But this one was a little bit different. On Sunday, we got to do things right. If we expect to win games like that, we can't. There's some things, not big things off the field, but a couple guys late, some things that I needed to really send a strong message and hold them accountable for. I'm a big believer in what happens off the field carries over directly to what happens on the field. And I spoke to the guys pretty strongly about that and get everything cleaned up because I know it works, and we had to get on board there.
What do you feel like was happening off the field that
That's Brett Bielema speaking yesterday to the Northwest Arkansas media. And he mentioned a couple things that I thought were interesting. One, the way he approached the team after the Texas A&M game was a little different than the way he approached them after the Rutgers game. I'm all for that. I love the different kinds of approach. That's what a coach has to do. You know, you have to take the temperature of the room, take the temperature of your players. And you know that after a game where they had a chance against Texas A&M, one of the top 10 teams in the country, that you're going to feel a little differently than after you blow a 24-7 lead against Rutgers. I did like that he was talking about accountability and, you know, being one of those guys who, you know, I'm going to make these guys accountable for their actions, for whether they're late for a meeting or Deatrick Wise. That's one guy who he made a great play to sack Johnny Manziel, and then he does this dance. And the coach is talking about, this ain't a one-man show. This ain't the NFL where you get a sack and you just get to dance around and celebrate. This is a team game, and you're going to hurt your team if you get a 15-yard penalty. Absolutely not. You do not celebrate a sack in that moment. I thought it was really cool the way they talked about that, but I did think it was interesting the way he talked about approaching his team differently after a Texas A&M loss than after a Rutgers loss. I think it's going to pay dividends because you've already seen the coaching pay dividends throughout the first 5 games as the team started off sluggish. The offense wasn't great. They've opened up the playbook as they've played better teams. So the offense has gotten a little better. The defense has gotten better. Although Texas A&M still put up 45 points and they were able to do a lot of different things on offense. And, you know, a lot of us expected Texas A&M to be able to do a lot of things on offense. The fact that Arkansas only had 1 penalty sticks with me. That's coaching. It's taking coaching, and it seems like the players are taking to what they're picking up what the coaches are putting down, and they're able to really grow throughout the year. And I really like what I've seen so far in that aspect. I'm looking forward to seeing Arkansas against this Florida offense that I don't think is that good. Now, Matt Jones, the running back, really, really good. He's just a tough guy. Mac Brown, it's 2 guys. Matt Jones, former Razorback football player, quarterback, and Mac Brown, the former Texas coach, current Texas coach, are running backs for Florida. Trey Burton is an athlete, former quarterback, and Tyler Murphy, who's now the quarterback there for Florida, had a good game last week. But this offense is not the story for Florida. It's the defense. We'll preview and predict on Friday, but I think Arkansas can have some success against Florida's offense because they can say, all right, well, we're going to hem your quarterback in. We're going to make sure your running game doesn't beat us with the passing game. And I feel like that Texas A&M was able to take advantage of Arkansas in that. But Trey Flowers, Chris Smith, 2 of the best defensive ends in the entire conference and even perhaps the country, will have something to say this week in the running game and pinning their ears back to keep this quarterback from being able to beat them from the pocket. I think Arkansas's defensive line can have a decent day. I wonder if we're going to be able to do anything to stop Florida, to score on Florida's defense, because their defense is incredible. You watch and I just said we. Sorry, my journalistic integrity just goes bye-bye when I'm talking about the Hogs. You watch Miami, and Duke Johnson, who is an incredible running back, had this much success against Florida in that game. Miami won the game. Florida was just horrendous on offense, turnover after turnover, and Miami was able to overcome the fact that Florida's defense just shut them down. It's going to be a battle on Saturday. Arkansas with Brandon Allen in that passing game doing just enough to loosen up the defense for Alex Collins and Jonathan Williams. I wonder if I know I talked about extra motivation that the offensive line is going to have. if they're going to really have a chance against this Florida defensive front. I do not expect for either one of the running backs to get that 100-yard plateau that seemed to come so easy for both of them so far. Alex Collins, 4 100-yard games out of 5. He didn't get 100 yards in the Rutgers game, but in 5 games he's got 400-yard games. He's the leading rusher in the SEC. I feel like he's going to come back down to earth a little bit in this game because Florida's defense is just incredible. Jonathan Williams, there's absolutely no way that both of them are getting 100 yards. Jonathan Williams, he's going to be a factor both in the passing game, we saw that on Saturday, and in the running game. He's going to be the hammer. I do feel like at some point, Alex Collins, he's got 100 carries through 5 games, 20 carries a game for a freshman. It is quite a bit. At some point, Jonathan Williams is going to take more carries through the game. I understand what the coaches are doing. They're saying, look at Alex Collins. When he carries the ball, it's like, just hold your breath because he could go to the house anytime. So they keep feeding him the ball thinking he's the man. And, 8 yards a carry, I think is what he got on Saturday against Texas A&M. I understand what they're doing. But Jonathan Williams has got to take a little bit of that punishment off of Alex Collins because, I don't know how long he can hold up doing that consistently. So we'll see if Arkansas is able to do anything against that defense. It's really going to be a lot about whether or not they can pass the ball. If they're able to pass the ball and, whether it's trick plays or whether it's not even just passing the ball, they've done some end-around stuff to Keon Hatcher and misdirection things. You're not going to be able to run east-west against Florida. It's absolutely not going to happen. And north-south's going to be tough enough, but east-west is not going to happen. If you're able to, in some way, get that defense to not put 8 in the box, if you can just get them to play your passing game honest, and you can keep them in some way honest, you have a shot, a fighting shot. I do want to see Jim Chaney's offensive philosophy in this game, his play calling. I'll know a whole lot more after this week. Just following these last 2 weeks, Brandon Allen back against Texas A&M and seeing how they play against Florida, I'm not going to lie to you. I am a little bit more excited than I was, but after this week, I'll know a lot more about this team, about the makeup of this team, about the coaching staff. I do want the coaching staff to stay together regardless because I do think this is a really good coaching staff. But we'll know a whole lot more this Saturday night about the Razorbacks following this Gators game. I made Florida out to be like they're national championship contenders and Arkansas doesn't have a chance, but that's not who they are. They're not that great a team. But I do think that Arkansas's got a tall test going to the Swamp, going to Gainesville. Brett Bielema mentioned it. Haven't beaten them in SEC play. They've got a tall test in front of them on Saturday. We'll break it down in greater detail on Friday. One other thing I wanted to make mention of before we leave for today, Jalen Hudson goes to St. Vincent St. Mary's, a basketball player there in Ohio, goes to the same high school as LeBron James went to. He is making his college basketball decision on Friday. He's down to Virginia Tech and Arkansas. He's a shooter. Very good piece to the puzzle as far as what Arkansas is looking to do under Mike Anderson. Still they've answered the front court issues. You got Bobby Portis, you've got Moses Kingsley and Alandis Harris and guys that are going to be there for the next couple of years. Need the backcourt help. You need a point guard who's, I think Anton Beard can be that guy, but Jalen Hudson may be the answer. An Antoine Bell, Jalen Hudson backcourt for the next couple of years could be really, really good. He's making his decision on Friday. I don't want to be a pessimist, but I've heard a lot of folks saying he's leaning more Virginia Tech. But if he chooses Arkansas, that just says a lot to me about the recruiting acumen of Mike Anderson, that he can go into Ohio and get a player that he really, really needed. So that's all the time we've got for today. We'll be back at 11 o'clock on Wednesday. For Maddie, I'm Mark. So long. Thank you for joining us today on the Sports Blitz.